And let's begin. Alexi, thank you so much for being on the show today.
I'm so excited to be here and talk about this. This is like so juicy.
It is juicy, but I just have to make a confession that, all of the guests on the show are amazing, but I have had and still have a girl crush, hashtag girl crush on you for so many reasons that we'll get into. Actually, we're going to start straight with them after our first and most important question, which is, what is your spirit animal and why?
Oh, okay. So everyone laughs when they hear this because everyone's got like a sexy spirit animal. Mine is an alpaca. And everyone's like,
I thought that was Preston's. It's not?
Well, I've assigned it to Preston because I love Preston so much that like I called in my spirit animal for my husband.
That's awesome.
But I chose an alpaca because alpacas to me are like graceful yet awkward. They're strong yet weird.
They are the paradox embodied. That's so true, actually.
I call them camel dog giraffes. They're like camel dog giraffes.
That's brilliant. And actually I can see this. I would say you definitely are more on the side of the glamorous as opposed to awkward, but you're
like
relaxed
a
in your
glamorous
body.
alpaca.
Yeah, you would be so glam. You would be like Queen Alpaca. Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, so actually talking about queens, obviously all of the guests coming on to this podcast, we asked them to take the quiz.
Yeah.
And I don't like to say that I knew before it happened, but I kind of knew sending you this quiz, the results that you would get. And I will even put a screenshot up because it's so ridiculous. But normally I would ask, what's your strong suit? What did you come out strong in? And did you, does that feel right for you? But of course, you're a perfect score across all three of the elements in light.
I didn't cheat, I promise.
100, which is amazing. And the truth is, it's actually not about the scores, but to me, what it speaks to is the benefit of the work.
Yes,
yeah.
100%. And I was going to say, if I took this quiz even a year ago, like it would have been a little more out of balance, or it would have been just like slightly, there would have been more shifts in it. But I think because of who I am and who I've set my container up to be in terms of my environment and the people I keep around me, we're constantly looking for our edge. And a year ago, when I got pregnant, I recognized there was a huge edge for me to step like deep into my goddess energy. And like I fully went through the rites of passage into my goddess and like really dove deep into that.
Yeah, I love that you bring voice to the fact that it's a state of flow, like waves. It's tide, and even in a year's time, and this is I think the beauty of this conversation is it just allows us even on the daily to say, I feel a little out of balance and undernourished in my gypsy or in my goddess, and then obviously over time we can swing, and I've certainly swung, and so I'm curious pre-full embodiment, which
I'm still working on, by the way.
Of course,
it's still a daily
thing. You can grow your capacity, which is really but you're skilled to grow it. That's what the quiz is showing. When you're 100 and 100 and 100 in light, and like I think you barely registered a freckle in like any of the shadows, what it shows is that you have the tools. And that's amazing and beautiful. So the question is if we went back previously, I'm talking way back, not a year, 2 years, like tell me the journey to the embodiment. Like where do you feel you started and growing up around the conversation of woman and feminine, masculine exist in both. So I'm conscious of the way we use those words. But if we say you being a girl and growing into a woman, who did you think you needed to be in the world, and where did those rules or expectations come from?
It was all shadow, to be honest. Like especially my queen, it was very set up as this like competitive, proving. I need to be just as good as the boys, if not better.
I got that t-shirt.
Yeah. Like I need to like be the best in the top all around, right? And I recognize, like looking back at my history, I've accomplished a lot in my young life. I'm 35 years old and accomplished more than most people will have done in 3 lifetimes. But it was all my shadow that was pushing it. And I'm now recognizing like, oh my gosh, I was so driven by my shadow in my queen. Like I need to rule everything. But there wasn't like a gracefulness to it. There wasn't a trust. There wasn't an ease. There wasn't a flow to it. So that's one. Now the goddess is interesting because I would say in my teenage years, I was really activated in my goddess, like ownership of who I was and like really tapped into my sexuality, but not giving it away, like still having like really good standards around it, but really tapped into that. And then I had a rape and sexual assault at 20. And that's when it went full shadow, where I've like just shut down. I just shut down my sexuality. I was like, sexuality's bad. It attracted this. I want to turn that off so I don't get any more of that.
Absolute protection.
Protection. So it was like wall, 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 wall. I'll just go full into my queen shadow. Work.
That's working for me. I'm getting accolades. I'm getting, like results, right? So
I'm getting validated in a way for where my ego feels good, but that sensuality was really turned off. So it wasn't until like my late 20s where I was able to really step into it. And again, when I got pregnant, where it took like a whole new depth and meaning to me. So that's been like probably one of my greatest evolutions, that one. And then the Gypsy, I feel like that's always been a part of my soul. Like since I was young, I was the black sheep. I was always the one who wanted to explore and travel and adventure and try new things and think differently and go outside the box. And I was on my third passport by the age of 25.
Yes.
So
the wanderlust was real and alive.
Like wanderlust, and it still is, even with the family. It's something that I incorporate into my work, into everything I do. Like travel is everything to me. So,
I feel the same. What do you feel that travel gives you? Like what's the gift it gives you that's really nourishing? In what way?
I mean, so many ways, but I would say, like, to encapsulate it, it is like, I love learning and I love finding my edge. And travel to me pushes me out of my comfort zone like super fast. And I'm not talking just like luxury travel where I'm like traveling to a hotel with a bunch of other Westerners in a foreign place. I like to go and like be in the foreign place and be in the culture and immerse and stay with local families. So for me, it's a language barrier. It's new food. It's completely living outside of my standards in terms of living. And that for me really has me like get simple, strip back all the things that like feel comfortable and easy for me. And it forces all those things that are like right underneath the surface to come up. And then I get to process it in a new space, a new container with new people. So I find it just makes me just a wholer, more expansive and more cultured individual.
So it's the growth. It's the stretch that you love. And I can 100% resonate with that experience too. So I feel like that's really what you teach in the world. And for anyone who is unfamiliar, which sort of shocks me that anyone could be, but the world is a big place. If anyone is unfamiliar with Alexi's work, you just must dip into the magic of all of the wonder that you share in the world, whether it's your YouTube videos or your trainings. They are amazing, and I strongly recommend, particularly my Australian audience, that you get in front of this woman.
Come to the bridge.
Come to the bridge experience. Do it all. It's amazing. It's simply amazing, and it's life-changing. And that's not a throwaway line in reference to this. So how did you end up there teaching growth? Because to me, you are truly a shining example of an aligned, authentic, embodied female leader. And we have, in my experience, too few of those. And we have more, and there's a shift, and it's exciting. But where, because I know a bit of your new backstory, and I know you could have gone many ways, but I'm just curious as to, how and why you found this path.
Well, it's interesting, and it totally correlates to this journey of queen shadow into queen light. Because I was so driven and so ambitious. And the queen light in me knew that there was something big on my heart to do, and there was like a big mission. And based on what was set up for me in the world, I thought it was through entertainment, because I grew up in a small town, and anyone who was doing anything big was like an actor or a musician or like somebody famous, right? So I'm like, okay, well, if I want to do something big and make an impact in the world, I have to be famous in order to have like that ripple effect. And so that was my initial like, okay, I'm going to go towards fame. So I had a career in music where I was on tour at 19 with Def Jam artists and signed to a major label, on multi-platinum albums, like big stuff.
Crazy.
And then I was a 6-figure model in New York City where I was making great money. Then I got into television hosting, and I was on network television shows, hosting shows on HGTV and a History Channel and the Sports Network, like big things.
Crushing it.
Yeah. And then finally, I had this like the queen light in me, and actually, it was like a bit of the Gypsy and the goddess as well. We're like,
it's your soul. It's your soul's whisper, right?
Like, tap, tap, tap,
or scratch, or like
2x4 across the face. Was like, hey, it's time for a shift. And at this time, I was in New York City. I had just like bought and remodeled my dream 2-bedroom apartment in New York. I was doing all the things, right? Knew everybody. I felt like I was like, it was my city.
Arrived.
Yeah. Like,
she's arrived.
It is my city. Yeah. And then I got this soul calling to move to LA. And like, I never liked LA. LA was never my thing. But I was like, let me take a trip out. I had a few friends out here. And it felt like a resounding, huge yes. So I listened to that. I had no idea what I was going to do out here. But I left everything in New York behind, including my apartment, rented it out, came to LA, got a job hosting E! News, which is like a big deal.
That's
Dream
huge.
job.
Yeah.
Dream job.
100%.
And I'm sitting there on set. I think I'm like, I don't know, maybe like 3 episodes in, and they hand me this sheet of paper with all the latest, most important news of the day. And it was like about Reese Witherspoon's skirt while she was playing tennis after her baby. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, is this what I'm
We do love Reese though, right?
We do.
Yeah.
She's great.
I just don't want to talk about her
But
skirt.
I don't want, I don't personally want to use my voice to perpetuate gossip.
Yes.
I want to use my voice to provoke change. And like that, it was like such a huge aha moment because I'd been in personal development since I was young. You know, my mom started me on Marianne Williamson and Wayne Dyer at like 8-9 years old. Went to my first Tony Robbins event at 16. Completed landmark education by 18. Like, I've been in the work for a long time, but I always thought that was just my hobby. But it wasn't until I really was available to see that my shadow queen was running it, and my ego needed to feel like I was important.
Yeah.
And that in that moment at E! News, I was like, oh, it's not about my ego. Like, I've been validating my ego my entire life up to this point, and like, I still don't feel full. So this clearly isn't the path. You know, and all those years of personal development, I was developing really, in essence, the shadow. You know, the ego. I was getting better at doing the things. Yeah. So at that moment, I really recognized, like, there's got to be more. Maybe there's more to this personal development thing because I'd been sharing it on set, and like, I was the go-to friend that everyone was calling. So I just leaned in. I quit all of entertainment, called all my agents, and was like, I'm done. And it was like a big like mic drop moment, and everyone's like, what? You know, like, you've got 6-figure contracts. Yeah. Everyone was like, what are you doing? Like, you're not going to make money. This is before life coaching was cool. And like, this was, you know, almost a decade ago. And everyone's like, life coach, is that like a soccer coach? And I'm like, no. You know, like, a little bit different. But that also gave me a huge opportunity of going, well, what do I want to create this thing to be and look like? And it first looked like workshops, and then it looked like online programs, and now it's like really immersive retreat experiences for business and personal stuff. It's everything, and it's honestly just following my soul's calling and my interests as well.
Yes. And so I want to speak to something you mentioned, the way that you pivoted in a big way. There was a listening.
Yes.
And I feel like this is a missing piece for a lot of women because, you know, your story is more, you know, glittery.
Yeah.
But many women listening, and myself, we can cut and paste that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we've been there, we've done that. We did what we thought needed to be done to succeed, to tick the boxes, to compete, to win at life. And then somewhere along the line, it just feels vacuous.
Yes.
And it's like this sense of like, this is it. It's unfulfilling. Totally. And we can either drown in that life, and lots of people do start to numb it out, turn to whatever it is, whether it's the wine, the food, the affairs, or we can listen. And I think it takes a really brave soul to drop in and listen.
Yeah.
And for the women who are maybe listening to this and going, I kind of feel like there's a whisper, but I don't even know how to. Like what, you know, like I'm so big about the tangibles because people would look at you and go, well, of course it's easy for Alexi. You know, that's a pattern that we do. We project that it's going to be so much easier for others. But like, let's just sit in those moments. Like when you have that option to either go and fill the void or just be in the void.
Yeah.
What would you say to those women who are like, I don't know how to do it or how to be with it? What's going to, you know, like what's the stuff running for them?
Yeah, well, initially I just want to say, like, I get that feeling, and I used to be in that conversation of like, oh, it's easy for them. They have the money, they have the community, they have the thing, right? Because I didn't have that. You know, I've built to this point. And the biggest thing, it's so simple. It's so simple. When you hear that whisper, when you hear that tap, 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 don't keep doing the same things you've been doing. because you're going to get the same results. You have to change your environment in some way. So for me, whenever I'm feeling that, I'm like, ooh, okay, there's something there. And this still happens where I feel it and I don't necessarily know what's coming. I'm in that right now.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I don't necessarily know what's next for me.
Yes.
I'm in a full evolution of my business right now, and I'm like, giant gray area. But what I'm doing is I'm radically changing my environment. So I'm taking new learnings, right? I'm becoming a student again, which a lifelong student, always become a student, always. Expanding my tribe.
And sorry, did grab the boob, sorry.
It's all right. It's right there.
But in that, also just to speak to always be a student, but still teach from where you're at, right?
100%.
Yeah, because there is that energy of I don't know enough, and there's a lot of
I'm not ready yet.
I'm not ready.
Yeah. It's that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
but the lifelong student thing is like really just being humble in what's available for us. So changing what you're learning. So for instance, when I was starting to feel that pull, I just gave birth to my son 7.5 months ago, and I was feeling this like something shifting, but I don't necessarily know what it was. At that time, I was fully immersed in like business podcasts and, personal development stuff and very much like the same stuff, somatic work and psychology and all of those things. And because I felt a giant gray area, but I wasn't sure what it was, I was like, let me look outside of the categories I normally look at for my books and my podcasts. And I found like 3 new types of podcasts. I read a new book called Pussy that like opened up my world, you know? And it was like, ooh, and then that led me down this little rabbit hole and completely influenced the work I had already been doing, but also has been bringing a little more clarity to that gray area as well.
Yes. And so I love that. And I feel like something that's super important in the sharing of that is that it's okay to not know.
Yeah.
And that if we just step forward and lean in or follow the breadcrumbs, like it's like the biggest word is really trust. Like trust that you in any moment will be able to either be okay in the place that you're at or just edge forward. And also that it will evolve, because much like you know, as a businesswoman, it's evolved over time. It's evolved. The offerings have evolved as you've evolved. And it doesn't mean you got it wrong.
Right.
It doesn't mean you got it wrong. It's like where you were, that was right?
Totally.
And so now it's like the new evolution.
And that there's something really important to like star, highlight, bold, underline.
Get your pens.
Yeah.
Do it.
Take action now from where you're at and the knowing that you have. Whatever you can trust, whatever you can like hang your hat on and you're sure of, take action from that place, because that step forward will determine what comes next. And it doesn't always look like what we think it'll look like, but sometimes we need that step in order to inform what comes next. And that is so important, because I find so many women, but men as well, but women in particular, tend to like wait for it to be perfect. I need the plan.
Wait for it to be perfect. Wait to be told they can. Permission.
Right.
Wait for the, like, how many times do we go, does this, I think it looks like, do you think this looks okay?
What do you think?
Does that look okay? I mean, you've said it, but maybe I need to go and ask 5 more women to get their opinion, or, X, Y, and Z. So we're looking for this external approval instead of going within. And that's been the biggest shift for me. And I'm sure
me too.
For you,
my gosh,
too. It's
huge.
like we need to sit with us and go, what do I choose? And what's right for me?
But that's a challenge in a world that's been set up for us to not trust ourselves, in a world that's been set up for us to be really good consumers and to hate ourselves, to hate our faces, to hate our body, to hate our hair, to hate our lives if we're a certain age and we don't have all the things yet. Like, we are literally pushed into a world where women are set up to hate themselves. They're conditioned to hate themselves so that we become really good buyers of products that will make our lives better.
Doesn't it just make your blood boil? It just makes my blood boil. It really does. It brings out my fierce queen energy. I'm like, this is not okay. And we need to vehemently and like aggressively reject that paradigm, like head on. And if we don't, it will just continue.
Absolutely.
And for the generation, as a mother now, and I do want to speak into that motherhood aspect in a minute, but as a mother of 2 girls, I'm just like, it's not okay. It's just not okay.
Especially for little girls. Like, you have 2 little girls and you're seeing them step into who they're claiming themselves to be as a woman. And it's like, I can't even imagine.
I just love, my girls are good though. Like, even the other day we were at dinner, this is just with a small group of people, and Harlow was saying, she's got some quirks. And then someone was like, that's just like quirky. She's like, I'm okay with all that I am. Like, felt like this.
Like,
I was
girl.
just like, you just made my week. I just
like,
stay there, be that.
Don't ever change.
Yeah. I was like, I wish I'd filmed it. It was amazing.
It's so good.
But So here's the deal. Like, how do we then, because we are facing a tide.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a tsunami. And so, often I think to myself, okay, the ripple counts and every person counts. And if we start with one, but it does. It is. It is an inner job. And I truly believe that if we all embodied self-love, there would be no problems in the world, right?
Totally.
But we need more leaders.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing. So as someone who teaches feminine leadership, where are we going wrong? And what do you feel is like the real challenge we're facing for women, and whether they're on platforms or just in the home? What's the missing? I know that's a big question.
It is. It's so juicy. I love it. The first thing that's coming through, and I know there's more, but I want to honor this, is that a lot of women don't see themselves as leaders. I think a lot of women...
Chills.
Yeah. And it's so true. Like, I've been blessed to always see myself as a leader and to have parents who cultivated that in me. So it's just like, it's not even a conversation. It's like, of course I'm a leader. But I know so many women, especially friends of mine, who are like, oh, well, I'm not like this, or I'm not like this. And we see these paradigms of leaders, and we're comparing ourselves to them. Again, thinking, well, I'm not what she is, so I can't be a leader. Versus going, I am a leader, and how am I leading in my life? We're all leading something. We're all first leading ourselves, and then we're leading our community around us, whether that be our family, our friends, our children, our partners. And I think that needs to be like really dropped in for people, because the world and that tide really can't take over in its full power until we all go, yeah, I am here to lead something.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a massive movement where you're standing on stages and rah-rahing people to wherever, but it could literally be in your own backyard.
And I think too, like, I love what you're saying there. It's like every day, wake up and think, okay, so even if you're not a parent and you don't run a business, and you're like, but I'm not a leader. You are a leader for your inner child.
That's it.
Because your inner child had dreams and hopes and wants. So even for that part of you, step forward. And lead the charge, because otherwise their dreams, fall by the wayside because of our resistance to write our own rules.
100%.
We need to pick up the pen and go, okay, what is true for me? It's this dropping inwards again. And I think even though I'm saying we need the leaders, it's really simply not to show us another way to be like someone, but a way to show us it's okay to not be all of these things.
Well, it's that paradigm of like, instead of I'm going to lead you to water and hand you a fish, it's like, I'll lead you to water and then teach you how to find that within yourself. Instead of like, I'm going to tell you to be exactly like me, which clearly isn't working. Like, we've seen that, like, be like this person in the magazines, be like this person on TV. It's not working. So in our leadership and people who are out there on platforms, I believe it's our job to stop trying to make carbon copies of ourselves, right? It's our job to really like listen and honor the human that's standing in front of us and go, who are you? Like, let me help you cultivate that, right? And then I'll say the second thing that's in every woman's way for the most part, not every single one, but for the most part, knowing our value. And like, this really dropped for me when I got pregnant and had a child. It was like, oh, I am way more powerful than I thought I was. And this doesn't require you having a child to be this powerful, but it reminded me of the feminine power that we have been given. We've been given the power to create, to cultivate life, to be the nourishment for the world. And I had been disowning that for so long through my shadow, right? And recognizing that when we nourish ourselves and we truly honor ourselves, then we do want to nourish ourselves. And when we nourish ourselves, we fill our cup. And when we fill our cup, the cup overflows. And when the cup overflows, we can serve way more people and have the space and capacity to really light this world on fire, because it is the feminine that nurtures. And we have been so masculine in our world that we have been hard and edgy and overwhelmed and controlling. And I don't know about you, but I'm kind of tired of that.
It's exhausting. It is exhausting. And the feminine, when we're dropped into it, can create with less. Like, it just takes less. There is more flow and more ease and more grace. And I think too, that part about the creation, like, it is the feminine's job to create, and yet many of us are mimicking. And we're missing the complete gift of that which we are. And when we bring forward our unique gifts, how much richer the world is for that.
So much.
I agree with you that they don't see their value, and I agree with you they don't see themselves as leaders. Yeah. So then, something that I often, speak to, my tribe, my family about, and I know you do too, is like vehemently guarding, the ecosystem that you are, so that we're not either just reacting, which, I mean, I've been that ping pong.
Me too.
And I kind of,
full disclosure.
Yeah, kind of upset about all the days, maybe weeks, months, years that I wasted, I'll do that for you. I'll do that for you. I'll do that for you. Yeah. And I know you're really strong about that. And I love you to give some tangible tips about on the daily, but even beyond, like, your suggestions around how to start the day. But this guarding against, even like we're talking about women being shown how to look. So how do we protect ourselves from that? This body hate stuff. Like, what's your suggestions around what we let in and what we just say no to?
It's so simple yet massive shifts. Turn off the television, or just watch Netflix because there's no commercials. Like, commercials are like brainwashing you and telling you you're not good enough. Magazines, hate to say it, magazines can be fun and saucy and like inspiring sometimes, but you're also being advertised every couple pages, as well as within the articles, you're seeing a paradigm of this is what you should look like. This is what you should look like. Instagram and social media, stop following people that you're comparing yourself to and make you feel terrible when you look at their pages and you're like, oh, this is a real story. So I love fashion. I love following like fashionable people. And at one point, I recognized I was kind of like in self-hate around like my face getting older, because I haven't done like any of the things. Like, I'm in LA, everyone gets Botox in LA.
There is a look here. There's like a trout lip thing. They look. It is strange. It is like stepping into another dimension.
It's very strange, but it's weird because in LA, people people are looking around and going, "Oh, that's what I'm supposed to look like," and I have not succumbed to any of that. And like,
please don't.
And I'm very animated, as you guys can see. So my face has lines because I'm constantly like doing this and stuff with my face, and I'm very animated. Always have been. So I had a couple friends that were like talking about, oh yeah, my Botox, and I was like, you guys get Botox? Like, I'm like so naive, right? But in that conversation, I'm on Instagram and I'm seeing, oh wow, nobody has lines on their face, and I'm like, oh, am I the only human being on this planet that has lines on her face?
No. Right? But in this ecosystem, it might feel like that, right?
Felt like it. Yeah. And then so I literally like took a step out of myself, of my person, and I was like, oh, let's look at how old these people are that you're following. They're all like 19. They're all like young fashion model influencers. Yeah. And I was like, okay, pause. So I unfollowed them for the time being while I like needed to reset my brain. And I found amazing, beautiful, natural women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s that are living their truth, are fully in their goddess, their queen, their gypsy. Like, I have chills because I'm thinking about some of the women that I found. And I literally searched. I didn't know these women existed because they weren't in my ecosystem. Now I follow these freaking queens that just like stand in their power, rock their gray hair, face like full of character and stories. And I'm like, that's what I want to grow into.
So good. That's your role model. Because then you found the leader. Yes, someone that speaks to your essence.
That's it. And now that I've like that's who I'm looking forward to, I can then go back and follow the little 19 or 20-year-old Instagram.
Because it's balanced.
It's a balance. And now I'm like, oh, right. I'm not trying to emulate them because that's like there. I'm moving here and I can still be inspired by it, but not controlled by it.
And I would, if it's all right, add to that or speak to that the way that you can sense this in your being as to whether or not it's healthy or unhealthy for me is just that physical expansion or contraction.
Totally.
So if you're ever on and you're like, oh, it's not harmful, but there's just that energy afterwards where you're like, I just feel It's like just an inward contraction. That's your soul saying, we are not expanded, we're not fed, we are not blooming in this experience.
Yeah, and a good way to monitor that is if you feel like going shopping after anything.
Or eating. Or drinking, like any numbing experience. Totally. I mean, really, let's look at them, because everybody numbs in a different way, and so not everyone sees it, but it's that feeling of not wanting to feel not good enough, not worthy, not beautiful, like whatever, you know. Big ones that I see is the wine.
Huge.
The wine o'clock. And we've actually glamorized it. There is now a culture around it.
Yeah, like wine time. Always time for wine.
And you know, and they collect their tribe like that. And you know, zero judgments about wine. But if the point is that if we're using it to not feel something, there's exploration work that we could benefit from.
And that's anything. That's like a lot of people use sex or even masturbation or porn. And that's like the shadow side of our goddess, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm totally tapped into my sexuality.
Yeah, I'm super sexual.
But where's it coming from? Is it coming from the need for attention and the need to feel satiated?
Yes.
Or is it coming from a fully empowered place?
And I work with a lot of women in that space who are claiming to be sexually empowered, but the truth is it's a heavy worthlessness running beneath it, and that need for acknowledgement and eventually they get to that place. And again, there are women who are sexually empowered and do like to have that experience, but it's all around the intention behind it, isn't it?
Intention, like even makeup, there's a lot of people now that are like, oh, if you wear makeup you're insecure and you're not, and it's like, no, women have been adorning themselves for thousands of years, right? And
celebration of beauty.
It's a celebration if it's actually a celebration. If you put on your makeup to accentuate your favorite part of yourself instead of, oh, I hate my eyes, they look so small, I need to do all these things and put all this stuff on, or I hate my cheeks, so I need to contour the crap out of my cheekbones. And it's like, versus going, oh God, you are so beautiful. Like, how do I want to dress myself up today? It's playfulness, and that's the creative thing that women are here to do and be. So we really get to play with that.
I love that. And actually, one of the things I've recently started doing around my self-love routine, just because it actually feels really ritualistic, is I love coconut oil. Everyone knows this. I only put coconut oil on my skin. But lately in the shower, I kneel down. So the shower is behind me. I kneel down with my coconut and I like rub it in my body, because you know how sometimes coconut is just too much and it takes a while, so it's good to kind of put it on and then just go through the water and then out, and it's like that's a good fit for me. But as I'm rubbing it into my body, I'm saying, I love you, thighs. Thank you for being so strong and driving me through the day. I love you, hips, for bearing my children. And I say this because, and I just even get chills as I say it again, because my body is hearing it. Like there is a vibration and a truth in the words we say, and you guys, this is what we teach, right? We speak into existence that which we say. So when you are hating on yourself, and that's such a valid point, like even when you're putting on the eyeliner, if it was like, even if you were saying, I'm going to accentuate my beautiful eyes that allow me to see beauty in the world, it sounds woo-woo, but
makes a difference.
It makes a difference. Think about the way you would begin your day.
Yeah, and you know what? People want to judge things that sound woo-woo, and I'm saying this from a place of doing it. Like I used to be like, oh, that sounds so corny, But think about the alternative. Like, what's the alternative? What's the other conversation that could be happening? Oh, I hate my eyes. Oh, I hate my nose. Oh, my mouth is so small and tight and ugly. Look at the wrinkles on my face. Oh my God, my ass is disgusting.
Even as you're listening, guys, can't we all feel it? It's like a contraction.
It is.
Yeah.
And so okay, so what's the alternative? Do you want to live in like that festering energetic state? Or do you want to live in a state that feels really blissful? And some people say, oh, well, easy for you two to say, you look a particular way. And it's like, yeah, but like that doesn't work for me, because I know some of the most beautiful people in the world. Like I modeled with some of the most stunning people in the world who had those conversations.
Yes.
Like, I'm ugly, I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough.
And if we lined up 5 different women from supermodel through to housewife, by the measure of beauty, and brought men and women to vote on it, no one person would take home the
100%.
prize, because it's in the perception of what we perceive as beautiful.
That's it. And I actually have a real story for this. So I do some humanitarian work in Africa, and my husband and I are both tall and thin as our build, right? It's our build. Every time we go over there, they think we're unhealthy, they think we're sick. They think they're like, because in Africa, when you're wealthy and abundant and healthy, you're bigger. Like you're just curvy and robust. You have a tummy, you got a nice big ass, you got big thighs, and so they look at us, are you okay? Is everything, you look very thin. And it's like,
Eat something.
Yeah, it's the concept of what we call beauty, and it is different. If you look, we talk about like in the Western world, like being tan is like, oh, like we're so tan, we're
China,
beautiful,
right?
Japan, China, all over Asia, they walk around with umbrellas
and whitening treatments. Like nothing in the chemist is without whitening.
Right.
Because wealth is, I don't have to be in the fields.
That's it. Yeah. So it's all perception. So stop putting your ladder up against somebody else's wall and thinking you're supposed to look a particular way. You don't. You're supposed to look exactly how you look. How do we know? Because you look that way. And like it's that simple. So really it comes down to ownership.
Yeah.
And we've all seen that woman that walks into a club or walks into a place and she's not what you would deem attractive, but she's in full ownership. And when you see her, you're like, damn, there's something about her. And she makes you look twice, as a woman, like, and you're not even into women. You're like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
It's because she's owning it. So own what you have, and I promise you, everything will shift. Yeah.
And just on the beauty piece, in addition to like culture, time frame. Like, we just need to look back a few decades and it's a completely different measure of beauty. So the measure of beauty is in flux on the collective. And so even in that, I mean, if you were born in a different era, it's just such a crazy conversation. And then more to that, why is it just physical beauty that we place all this worth on? When,
it's ridiculous.
We all know the most beautiful outside shell with a hollow heart and an energy that's not light is no longer beautiful. So we need to, again, vehemently defend and redefine and rewrite and reclaim 100%.
And this is where it comes down to your responsibility. Like, if you're listening to this, I don't believe in accidents. I believe you were meant to hear this particular episode and watch this particular episode, because there is a message in here that you need to hear from this conversation. And if you're taking that message and just feeling inspired and then walking away and forgetting about it, that's on you. But if you're hearing this message and you get that little click and that tap, do something about it.
Yeah.
Like, this is where we're saying you are a leader in your life. Like, take leadership in your life and do something about it. Like, make a tangible change today. Make a declaration. Redefine how you've been defining yourself, and do something now to actually shift how your world looks.
Because, guys, nobody is coming to save you, because most people can't save themselves. This is the irony of us being concerned about what other people are thinking. Everybody else is worried about what everyone else is thinking. So no one is thinking of you. And while you're worried about someone coming to save you, they're really hoping they can even make it through the day themselves. So step up and step in. I love that. So take some action. What can you do today? What can you say no to that would expand you? What could you say yes to that would expand you? And this is a great segue. So thank you for setting it up so perfectly.
Of course.
I don't feel like there is maybe any area of the womanhood that is more judged, more criticized, more critiqued than motherhood. Do you agree, Alexi?
Oh my God.
Weigh in on this.
It's so true.
We had a conversation about this the other day.
So the minute I got pregnant, even before, when I was like, oh, we're talking about starting a family. You need to do this. You need to do this. This is what you need. Oh, well, are you considering this? Well, what about this? What about this? Then I got pregnant. Oh, are you taking this? Are you eating this? How are you doing this? What are you drinking? Then I gave birth. Oh, well, how are you giving birth? What's happening? Are you vaccinating? Are you circumcising? And then it's like, now I've got a child. And
are you breastfeeding? Are you napping? Yeah, are you on a schedule? Are you not on a schedule?
Literally.
And all the rights and wrongs.
We have one of those little jumpers that you hook up to.
They're bad, by the way. Your baby's going to be deformed.
Of course. And literally, I'm like, my son is in it maybe 5 minutes out of every week, right? But he loves it. It's super fun. 5 minutes out of every week, right? And it's a kangaroo. It's so cute. He loves it. He loves his little kangaroo. And I'll post something because he's making the best face and loving it on Instagram. And someone's like, these are terrible for your children. Don't do it. And I'm like, you know what? I never asked. I never asked for your opinion.
That. There's a great phrase that's like, not my circus, not my monkey. I just sometimes like to say that it's like, you're not in my world. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, because I think both of us love to help people that we have no connection
of course.
To. And yet, if it's unsolicited, just stop.
Well, and it's a piece, right? It's like the small slice of this giant life that I'm living, and I'm giving a small window. And if you don't have the context for anything in life, even if it's if you see a text message that comes through on your partner's phone and you don't have the context for it, you could take that completely out of context and blow the whole thing up. Versus actually getting a full understanding before you place judgment or suggestion on somebody.
Just don't place judgment.
Yeah.
Because you're not in their shoes. You have no concept.
You have no
concept
idea
of what's going on for them.
And especially the breastfeeding conversation. I have so many friends that had trouble breastfeeding, that couldn't produce milk, that it was painful for them. And they stopped early, and they got so much stuff around, their parents, well, you need to breastfeed and blah, blah, blah. And it's sometimes it's better for the mom not to, and better for the baby not to.
Because also, on that piece, because I shared with you, I struggled with breastfeeding. Yeah. I did persist as long as I felt that I could.
Yeah.
And there is always that thought in my head, the tension that I was holding, to get it done with nipple issues and mouth issues and attachment issues and then lactation just issues.
Yeah.
what's in that exchange now energetically, 100%. You know? So
that's why I said, even for the baby, like we can say, oh, well, breast milk, we know scientifically is great for our children, right? We know that. But energetically, it's going into our milk. So if you're sitting there hating your breastfeeding experience,
it's not good.
Your child's feeling that, you know? And
it's like serving up a meal, you know, like the wife who's like, F you, and throws the meal on the plate, and the guy's like, he's not really going to be deeply grateful, is he? He's like, thanks, sort of, I think, I don't know.
Versus someone who cooks the food and like, you can feel it.
It's the intention. It's the intention again. It comes back to that. It so is.
It is.
And so the other point about that, though, it's not just the external judgment, because I work with a lot of mums and have done for years now, and there is a deep-rooted fear in many mothers that they are not good mums.
Yeah.
And it comes, it's externally generated because there's all these whys and hows. But what do we want to say to the mums and you know, anyone who is a mum in any space, and at the end of the day, you're always a mum to your inner child. So this is 100%. Still relevant. So in any way that you feel, it could be in your career that you're just not measuring up, like we can say, just believe in yourself, and you know, but really, like, I know for myself, and I cop a lot of judgment as a working, essentially single mother, you know, and not a single, you know who I think we need to have a public holiday every year for? Single parents.
Yeah.
And I mean single parents who are like 100% by themselves without the support of others. Because I'm a part-time single mother, and it breaks my heart, you know, and I've shared this openly, that no mother ever has a child intending to have them half the time. Yeah. But equally, my children deserve time with their father. And are nourished by that. And, you know, I've come to accept this upside for me. Yeah. But I'm a single mother when I'm with my children, and I work. And that means sometimes my kids are at work, and you know, I have so many clients, it's like, oh, here's Harlow and Baylor, and you know, they're kind of keeping the place together.
Yeah. It's my team.
But there's a lot of external, and I worked through that. I really sat with, okay, the guilt's coming. I can feel it. I can hear it in the language. It's straight up just judgment.
Oh, yeah.
And then here's what I did, and I'm curious to know how you've dealt with this in the different spheres you've been in. I looked at the results, and in fact, this is one thing I've always said I love most about the work you do. You were like, look at the results. So it's like, stop, even in the space where you're a bit BSing yourself, oh, I'm really doing everything I can. It's like, are you really? Because based on results.
Check that out.
Yeah. But I kind of turned that around this mom piece, and I was like, you know what? Here's the thing. I do work, and I am passionate about the work I do in the world and the people I stand for. And my children are epic. Yeah. So
based on results,
you know, there isn't anybody. Based on results, there isn't anybody who's like, your children, I don't want to look after them. Like, people are like, oh, can I have the girls? Oh, do you need me to take care of them? And the point is I like hanging out with them. So it's like, it's not so much the time even that you put into things, and it's not that, it's the quality, and it's the energy, and it's the intention around it.
100%. And I'll say, like, yes, that's totally what I believe as well. Like, look at the results. Look at what's showing up in your ecosystem. Second, and it comes down to trust. Preston and I, my husband and I, travel a lot for work, a lot. And everyone's like, oh, you're pregnant, you're going to stop traveling now. And we're like, well, no, because this is a part of our lives. And I really had to have the conversation with myself and trust that my son's spirit chose us.
Yes.
You know, and he chose me for all my amazing alpaca quirks, you know, and like all of my things. And he chose his father for all of the things that Preston brings. And he chose us as a dynamic partnership for the journey that we're on and the journey we'll take together. Yes. Who knows where that'll lead us. He chose us because we travel and we're in different cultures. And there's something that his spirit needed that he chose us to get and to find.
Amen. 100%. And, you know, as someone who works in family systems, and, you know, knows, you know, generationally how we are impacted. Yeah. The other point of that is, I know my girls will have stuff.
Yeah, of course. They're
and it's
human.
Not, it's the human, it's their journey, and it'll unfold divinely for them. Yeah. And all I'm here to do is not to make them a certain way, but to empower them with the tools to expand into their wholeness. That's it.
Oh, that's such a beautiful, like that to me is what parenting is about. And it's less about like doing all the right things and making our children the perfect kids. Like, they're human, and every human, I don't care who you are and how great your life was, we all have our stuff. It's a part of the human condition. And if we can just be the space and the vessel for our children to feel held and supported through their stuff, then we've won.
And you know what? I feel like if we take that concept of motherhood and just stretch it back into leadership, because it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Just and I mean, to the people you work with, whether they're actually beneath you in the hierarchy, whether it's your husband or whether it's your inner frickin' child, your only job is to be with them as they expand into their wholeness and to support that for yourself and for them. And that's leadership.
Totally. 100%.
That's also just awesome humaning, right? You know, that's it. You just nailed it. Just do that.
Yeah.
Copy paste every day. All right. So let's dive a little back into the GGQ, just, you know, because our ladies love that so much. So Alexi, what is your go-to ignition, like match lighter or nurturing thing that you love to do for your Gypsy? Like when you know she's been neglected and she's like, what about me? What do you do?
Nature is my Gypsy's favorite place. Like I go to the woods, I go for a hike, I go in the ocean, I put my feet like planted on the grass and just feel that wildness in my soul. That is nature. Like we forget that we're nature too, right? Because we're human and we're so smart, but we're nature too, you know?
We're animals and
and I believe that we have all the elements within ourselves. So if I can tap into those elements, it allows me to tap into my wildness, and that wildness activates that like bohemian free spirit that just is reminded that the simple joys of life are everything.
Okay. And for the corporate woman, perhaps, you know, because I'm just like, you see, I don't want them to have excuses. So if you're at work and you're like, well, I can't get to the beach, you know, I can't get to the mountains, take your shoes off and walk barefoot in the carpet just so you're not in heels. Or go to the park and like lay down on the grass and go to one further away from your office. Like really feel how you can take that advice and make it yours.
Oh yeah, I used to work in New York City and I would find a park every single day to do that in and just literally take my shoes off, put my feet in the grass, look up at the sun. If I was not near like Central Park or one of the big parks, I would sit on a bench and look up.
And just to give, again, more context for others, were you in nature a lot as a child? Is that why it particularly activates you as well?
For sure.
So if you were never a nature-based person, and, you know, some people are like, you know, there are people who put feet in sand and it's like a thing. They don't like it. Like it's interesting. I'm like, how is that possible? But I understand that it is for people. So if you were like a drawer, then draw. Like go back to what it is you did as a child is another one. But that's probably why that nature.
It's huge for me. And also art is huge. Making things. Like I was always a maker as a child, and you know, we talked about this a bit at Business Breakthrough, but making things for the sake of making them and not turning it into a business. A lot of women who have that like go, which we both have, we can have a certain talent and be like, oh wow, I just made this beautiful piece of jewelry. I should probably create a business out of this and sell it. And it's like, no, just do
Keep
at least
that for pleasure.
One thing for just pleasure. Like whether it's playing the guitar, whatever, just do one thing for pleasure.
Okay, and so your initiating, nurturing go-to for Goddess.
This one is so easy. It's called the ultimate shower. I've had this ritual for probably...
Do tell.
Since I came out of my rape and sexual assault and was really like reconnecting to my body. So it's an ultimate shower. It is nice and steamy and hot.
I like
it is candles. It is my favorite playlist. It is door shut. At least an hour of nothing to do, no interruptions. I'm not in the shower for an hour, but for like 45 minutes. I'm in there for a while. It is full wash, full shave, full body scrub with like the gloves in it, like full exfoliation. Then it's oils, and then it's scent. So I'm using aromatherapy in there. Then it's doing like a face mask, and then it's coming out and styling my hair, even if I'm going to bed. Even if I'm going to bed.
Wowzers.
Styling my hair, putting like my favorite like lotions on that feel so good on my skin, and like really taking my time and loving and nurturing my skin, putting on my favorite robe. And if I'm going to bed, I'll put on like a nice like negligee or something that I feel sexy in, right? It doesn't have to be that. You can feel sexy in like, you know, boy shorts and a t-shirt, which sometimes it is for me. It depends on the mood. And if I'm going out and doing my ultimate shower before something, which is a great idea, ladies, if you have like a thing to go to, then I make sure I'm wearing like underwear that matches and is beautiful, and putting on clothes that make me feel just extraordinary.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we spoke earlier about the goddess and you were talking about sexuality, and I think I want to really drop in for women that nothing is ever just the one thing. Like the micro is the macro and the macro is the micro. And the real energy of the goddess is that equal parts giving and receiving. And this was
the biggest one.
Yeah, this was the piece, but this is the piece that's so just... I want to say like dehydrated or shriveled, but I can't come up with a better word. But it's like that's
prune.
the energy. It's like a raisin, and it's not good. But it's so dead. Yeah. And it certainly was for me. And even, hand on heart, this is still a daily practice for me. When someone offers to pay for a meal for me, I'm like, and I literally, for me, the way to get through that, and I wanted to just touch a little deeper on this because of and thank you for being so open. I know you are in all spaces, authentically owning your life experiences, but to talk of, the rape and the abuse.
Yeah.
And, many people have suffered deep traumas in and around
their sexuality.
Yeah, sexuality.
For sure.
And so receiving, because a lot of the clients I work with are women who, can't orgasm, who can't shift out of their minds, who can't soften into their body. So that ultimate shower sounds amazing. Yeah. But then if we take that into, because that's really receiving. Does that make sense, guys? It is not about, and I get a little frustrated, maybe a lot, around this self-love conversation of like
just take a bath. Yeah,
take
do
a
your
bath.
nails.
Go and buy something. Treat yourself. Get it, queen. All this
get
stuff.
It, girl.
Because what I want to point out about that, although Alexi is sharing a beauty regime of sorts, what she's doing is giving to herself, therefore receiving within herself luxury, time.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
It's
the time and the attention.
Time and attention.
Yeah, and the thing saying that no one else gets me right now, and I get myself. So it's the receiving piece.
Yeah. So
if we take that and I know, and I'm really bringing this because I want you guys to have the shifts. So for me, it was started even compliments. I would literally initially pretend I would ignore them. That was my first stage. Like pretend I couldn't hear them. How ridiculous. Then there was like a grunt phase.
Yeah.
Like
what?
It was so
How could
bad.
anyone think that?
And I had a great friend who said to me, he's just said, just breathe and receive. And it became a little mantra. So when things feel icky or like even if it's praise at work, you did so good, and your initial reaction would be, oh, I should have, I'm going to what you should have done.
I didn't do.
Oh, that's a great time. Oh, this old thing, like all of that. Just stop and just do this one thing. This is my advice, but I don't know yours. It's like, just breathe. And receive is like let it drop in and then say thank you. And initially for me it would be like thank you. It was like I was learning English. It was so awkward. But weird. Now, and I was so big on doing this for my girls. Yeah. So I wanted my girls to know that I could receive. And you should see them. They're like receiving compliments that aren't even about them. Yeah. It's like someone's commenting on the table. Thank you. It's like, it's a compliment bomb, but I love it. They just take it. They just bring it in.
So good.
How did you step into receiving, especially from that place of deep wounds?
Yeah. So this I actually worked with a coach on because I was so in my way on this and could not, I was like Miss Independent. I'm going to do everything for myself. I don't need anybody. Like story of my life. Yeah. Which is why the ultimate shower was a big deal for me because it's a ritual. It's like my time, my presence to me because I was always out focus. Now, my coach literally, and it's still, I still hear her voice in my head. She goes, when you go to the grocery store and they say, do you need help with this out to your car? Instead of going, which my initial gut reaction is
no, I'm good.
No, I'm good. Even if it's like a bag. It's like, no, I'm good. She's like, say yes.
Yes.
When you're on an airplane and you see somebody who can easily lift a bag and you can too, ask for support. And I'm like, but I don't need it. Like inside I'm like, but no, I don't actually need it. And she's like, I get that.
Yes.
But what you do need is to learn how to receive.
Yes. Oh, I know. I love that. Because that's a stretch. That's like, I'm like, I would be in resistance to that too.
Like it still comes up for me and I hear her little voice going, yes, you don't need it, but you need to learn how to receive.
And the flip side of that around, the masculine, I'd love to have you back on one time about that whole side of things is, but even for the men, there's a great phrase around like a king and queen energy. And he says he understands that she can do it, but he chooses to not allow her to. And it's just that. It's like, it doesn't mean you're weak to receive. And the piece for me that really clicked in, because I love to give, is that it was a birthday thing, actually. Like I always feel like, oh, it's my birthday. I don't want people to know it's my birthday. And then my cousin, he's a really sneaky, and he like gave the wrong, he like set up, because I used to have my birthday in Facebook, and he put it as a wrong date. So all these people were sending me, not even on my birthday. So I don't even like it on my birthday, but they were like, happy birthday, you're amazing, in the work, thank you for the blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I felt so awkward. And I was like, no, this is my nightmare come true. And then in that moment, what I realized is they were getting such joy from saying and giving. Yeah. And for me not to receive it is like blocking that gift for them. The same way that I love to feed people and I love to help people. If they were like, I'm good. Yeah. No, like what are like,
you're robbing people
exactly
of the experience of giving.
And that if nothing else, if we can just guilt people into receiving, I will do it.
Totally. We're making you feel guilty. Stop robbing people of the gift of giving, because we love to give. I love to give, to support, to like help people. Like that is part of my love language. Like I love tasks and like acts of service. Yeah, like, I love that. That is my love language. And like if people turn, I'm good, I don't need your help, I'm kind of like, well, I want to do it.
You want to do it. And we need to remember that to another, we are another, and that is true for them too. So it's that two-way dial.
Yeah, I actually have a stretch for people.
Yeah, do it.
And it may not happen right now, but when it's your birthday, and it could be like, 12 months from now, go on Facebook or whatever social media platform you're on and ask people to type in the comments their favorite memory of you and how you have impacted their life. And say, I'm doing a stretch for my birthday and I really want to practice receiving. So I really want to receive all the joy and beautiful memories from all of you so I can really feel into my impact on this planet.
That is brilliant.
It's huge. I did that and I was like, it was so uncomfortable at first.
But then did you just feel so loved?
Breathe. And I was like, oh, this feels really good.
Yeah, and you just need to breathe through it. Breath, because remember, I mean, just even animals, that breath codes it as survivable. It's just that. New experience, new belief. I can survive it. Yeah. All right. Activating, I don't even think you would ever need to activate your queen. You either like any of these, but okay, say you've, you know what, actually maybe, I don't know if you had this experience, but I know for me, first baby, first few days, I don't think in my life I have ever felt so vulnerable because I had that moment of, I have to make sure it doesn't die.
Yeah.
Like I was like, it's.
And I don't have a manual for this.
And I've never done. It was like full never done it. It's so little, and I have to keep it alive, and it's a forever thing. Like it was like all of these things, and I remember probably more than ever in my life in those. And it might even been, a few days, maybe a couple of weeks, but just feeling like I needed my husband, like so much then. So I'm sure it doesn't happen often to you, but when you feel like your queen is either lost her way or even lost purpose, like off track, like how do you bring her back?
Yeah, honestly, it's a feeling conversation for me. So it's like, because again, my shadow queen is do, my light queen is be. And it did happen after I gave birth to Kingston. Like the first couple weeks I was like high, but also in like survival mode. But then like month 2, I was, after that like settled a little bit, I was like, oh shit. What do I do with my life now? Like everything's changed.
Yes, and it is. It's like an atomic bomb drops, I feel.
My goodness. Like full identity shift, right? It was like midlife crisis, but baby life crisis. It's like, who am I now as a woman?
And just to speak into that, I think this is also one of the reasons that postpartum depression kicks in, because if we're not grounded, it raises all those questions of purpose and meaning and who am I? And if you don't have the answers or you don't know how to access the tools, it makes sense you would go towards the shadow there.
And I remember that moment where it's like, I had that conversation. I was on my rocking chair with my son and I was like, oh, this is where it goes south for women. Because I felt like I could go here, but I know that I have these tools and I'm going to work through this.
Yes. And in addition, and I really want to, let this land for any of the women who've been there too, to not have any, it's so common. In addition to this unknowing that is already, we crave certainty, we crave security. So it's this deep unknowing and can I, and I don't know how, layered in with sleep deprivation and hormonal imbalance, the two other main mood adjusters. So it is a chemical shitstorm on top of an emotional shitstorm, like on top of actual baby shit. So it's like just shit.
And spit up and all the other things.
I mean, honestly. And I salute all the women who have been there and moved through. Yeah. And if you're still there, let's speak to that.
Yeah, if you're still there, like, first of all, the biggest issue with postpartum depression, I don't even like calling it that.
I know, it's a label, but you know what I mean, the dark space.
It's the dark space. And honestly, my midwife told me something really powerful. She's like, every woman goes through postpartum depression. it's not depression. It is called you just had a baby. And I was like, oh,
are you having the you just had a baby moment? Isn't that lighter?
Because then you take on postpartum depression, then that's a label you wear, and then there's guilt and shame around that. Oh my God, I'm a terrible mom. And then you're hiding from the world because you don't want them to know about this terrible label that you have, right? Versus just going in full trust and full acknowledgement and full acceptance. I just had a child. My body is completely different. My hormones are completely different. I haven't slept in 2 months. I haven't showered probably in 3 weeks. It's like, I don't even know if I've brushed my teeth in a long time.
It's like this. I know.
Like I felt like I either, pushed out my entire insides through my vagina, or I've been surgically had a child surgically removed from my body.
Major abdominal surgery, yeah.
Major.
It's layered. It's so layered.
Major life change. So, I mean, it's hitting mind, body, spirit, all the things. So first, give yourself the permission to just be okay with that and in full acceptance. Because we're only in comparison when we're looking at all the sparkly moms on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and all the blogs that are like, I've got it all together.
Yeah. And it's not seeing them cry and not seeing them stuff it down, not see them.
Which, by the way, it's happening.
Oh, yeah.
Like, parenthood is so real, whether you're doing it alone or with a partner or with your entire family supporting. Parenthood and life, like just life. You don't even have to be a parent.
Yeah.
Life is real.
Yeah.
Like, and it gets hard. And like.
So actually, just stop the press.
Yes.
Alexi, I have a question for you. Have there been nights in your life where you have been doubled over, crying
on the bathroom floor?
Yeah. Like, I mean, no, truly though. Has it? Because
seriously.
I need people to hear this, because they look at you and they look at how together you are. And same for me. And I mean, I have had sometimes endless nights of darkness where it's like you just don't know if you can even make it through the night because your soul is so ripped to shreds. So you've had those nights, right?
Oh my gosh. And I do my best to share those online, because I feel like so many of us aren't doing that enough, where we're just sharing the sparkly moments. But I've absolutely had those where I'm literally doubled over on the bathroom floor. For some reason, I like the bathroom floor. It's like my place
so cliched. You want to be super cliched. Go to the bathroom. Yeah.
Bathroom floor is my jam for a breakdown. And then they're like, oh, in my shit. And like, I'm human. You're human.
We're all human. We're in this together.
Even though I know I have so many tools, I have all the things, sometimes I really just need to be in it. And I know this for myself. Even like in my relationship with Preston, sometimes, and it's not often, but when we do get in it, we get in it. And it's like, because he's a powerhouse too. So it's like two type A personalities, like blah, 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 blah. And when we're in our shadow, shit gets real.
Yeah.
Right? And because we go so deep in it and fully cathartic, we come out really clear.
Yeah.
And that clarity has brought us closer together. That clarity when I'm in my own breakdown, when I fully cathart and like release, I have space after. And I'm like, ooh.
A good cry is like,
it's the best. Sometimes I like force a good cry with like a great playlist.
Play that song.
Yeah,
play that song.
You know that song. Play that song. And then you're just like crying. You're like, oh my God, I'm sad and I don't even know why. But sometimes a good cry is necessary to clear the emotional heaviness we're feeling, to give us space, to give us clarity. It's such a gift.
So much juiciness. All right.
So good.
Final questions. Okay.
Well, wait, I never fully answered the queen question.
Because I jumped in.
No, it's fine, but I just want to make sure we close that loop.
Close it.
All right, so closing that loop, it's a being question. So I always ask myself, how do I want to feel? Because even if I'm like, I want to create this business, or I want to do this thing next, or how do I want to feel? And I ask myself, how do I want to feel? Oh, I want to feel expansive. I want to feel free. I want to feel tapped into my soul's calling and my passion. And then I go, okay, how can I feel that? And whether it's reading a book, on a hammock under the sun, which is like expansive, free, and tapped into my soul's calling because I'm reading something I'm interested in, that's like a quick way for me to just get back into that trust.
Yes.
Which is like...
this is the thing, this has been a big shift in awareness for me just recently around the how you want to feel. And then the thing is then meeting that need yourself
without
so that
anything
you
else.
can trust that you have your own back. Because this is really where the piece of self-love, I think, like it hinges on, is we're looking external to have the needs met.
Yeah.
And then layer, the needs aren't being met because everyone else is too busy, right? As I said before, doing their own. Then we start looking for the wants, but the needs aren't met. And it's all external. But if we can come from within and go, what do I need to feel today to feel whole and complete and in flow? And just even if it's just okay, even if I just felt okay, meet that need, then you know you can trust yourself. Because like, you know, I do a lot of work around loving the body, and there is no skin suit or no other thing that's going to be with you from first breath to last breath, for sure. You are the one. So like, be the biggest love of your life, right? Like the love of your life is not just sitting in front of you, is sitting in you.
That's it.
You know,
and every great relationship is based on trust. And if you don't have trust of the self, it doesn't matter if you have the most loving partner who you trust and adore 1,000 times over. If you don't trust yourself, you'll never feel secure in that relationship.
Because you won't be able to uphold your boundaries and meet your own needs.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So good. So good.
good.
All right. Coming to mind for you around even this piece, because I know, like me, you've read like so many books, and there's so many. But around these pieces, what book would you direct a woman to? Or a couple, just, you know.
There's a few.
We'll link to all of them. And obviously we're linking to all of Alexi's stuff in the show notes, but yeah.
So Pussy, so good. It's all really about like reclaiming and redefining.
And here's a stretch. If when you heard that, you're like, oh, not that one, go get that one.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you're in resistance, go get it. Because give them the position, that whole title.
So Pussy, a reclamation. And the reason, I just got goosebumps.
Yeah.
The reason why she, and I forget her last name, it's Regina, I forget her last name, but Mama Gina, you can look her up, she's awesome. She basically chose that title because she knew that there's this like aversion to it, but there's also aversion to vagina. There's also aversion to all these names. And she wanted to reclaim a word that has been taken from us.
It has been taken from us.
And has been brutalized and criticized and talked about and ostracized and commoditized and all the things. And she wanted to take that word back and say, this is our word, and we're gonna like take a deep historical look at our power behind it. And she goes into like back, how women used to be revered and their central channel of birth used to be like an altar.
The womb is the powerhouse, like the creator of life. Yeah.
And so many of us are like, I can't even look down there.
Yes. And this is something I've addressed with my girls from the get-go. There is no part of your body that is not safe for you to touch and explore and know. They're fully aware of the correct anatomical terms, and they're 8 and 10. And you know, some people might be, that's too young, but that raises the question. I'm not telling my children to have sex. I'm telling my children to know their body and revere it as divine. And
which
I think
will
that's
then
an
I think will
important
affect
piece.
their sex life.
Well, when you know your worth, you're not
100%.
going to dilute it.
100%.
And did you know, because I did not, that there are around 220 words that are derogatory for the female, around sexuality for women and the female sex organ, and approximately 20 for men.
Makes so much sense.
What the? Like, I just want to roar with a little bit of anger.
What?
Yes. Not okay. Okay, Pussy.
Yeah.
It's on the list.
So that's on the list. It's amazing. Warrior Goddess Training is really good.
Brilliant. I agree.
That's a great book. And I think she has a workbook
she does.
as well.
She does.
Which is
great.
great.
There's a whole series.
Some practices. Conversations with God for me is always on my list, because it's just a book. Just start with book 1. There's 4 books now, but book 1 is just, it's a reminder of the divinity within. And I think we can all, like, I reference that book weekly. I just open up passages. It
was honestly probably my activation away, or because like you, PD, quote books and so young, but it was my pivot towards spirituality.
Like
that
depth.
book. Yeah, because I was not raised spiritually. Yeah. And that was like my, this makes sense to me. This feels like truth to me. Yeah. That was the book. So I'm so glad you mentioned it.
And I want to mention it too for those of you who have an aversion to religion.
It's nothing,
because I did.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to read
I considered myself an atheist for a long time.
Me too.
And then I'm like agnostic now, where it's like, I have no idea. I know there's something bigger. No idea. And I also am a studier of all world religions.
Yeah.
But I was like hardcore, like I even hated the word God. But I read that book and it shifted it for me. So it's a powerful book. And then my final book, which should be on every woman's bookshelf, Osho, Intimacy.
I actually have heard you say this before, and do you know that I have not read it? So full confession, I will, top of my list.
It is triggering. It is expansive. It's all about intimacy with the self and how we bring that to a relationship. And it is like, it changed the way I look at relationship. It changed the way I looked at freedom. It changed the way I looked at like possession. And it just allowed me to love from a much more secure place and from a place of truly knowing what I bring to the table and fully trusting that whoever's meant for my life is meant for my life.
Yes. And interestingly, one that did that for me, and it's probably is Lovability by someone Holden. It's either David or John Holden. He's done heaps of books in a Hay House family.
Oh, nice.
But Lovability really opened up is how I feel about love, that it's not possessive and transactional, definitely not transactional. Yes. Anyway, we could do a whole other conversation about that. All right, so
thousands of books.
Yeah. So I want to finish with this. If this audio got condensed into only this next sentence that you're going to share with us, but that one sentence, this message to whomever you want to speak into the listening of, and literally though it went to the ears of every single soul on the planet. So it's like Alexi's message to the world, and there was no other way after today that you could ever deliver a message. This is like your message in a bottle. Wow. You know what I mean?
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. I mean, it can be shit if you want. You're just kidding.
This is just for all of humanity.
Yeah, but it's like I suppose what I want it to simmer down to is like, what is the truth that you're like, if you know nothing else, know this. And then, you know what I mean? It's that. Yeah. So you can sit with it for a minute.
Meet yourself. Truly meet yourself. Listen to him or her. Trust that listening. And go.
Meet yourself. I got chills, babe. You did pretty good.
Not bad.
I liked it. Yeah. Guys, as I said at the top of this, I didn't even know. This has been so, I'm just like, I'm so activated and alive right now. Thank you so much.
I'm like,
this has just been all the joys, all the feels, all the loves. We are going to link to everything that you can do with Alexi. She tours the world with, the Bridge Experience, which is epic. And then there are others beyond that. Again, all epic. You must do them. I've done Business Breakthrough with you. I highly recommend it, especially for the conscious female leader.
Yes.
Definitely a must do. Basically anything you do is a must do because I don't say that to blow smoke, but because you're aligned and because you are authentic and because you are all about the service. And so the last question is this: how can all of us as a collective of women, but those listening and myself, how can we support your message of this meet yourself? And I know it's beyond that, but how do we bring more impact to the work you're doing to support you? Like what would you suggest we do?
Honestly, show up and do the work. Like that's my number one ask of anybody that comes in contact with me ever, is just show up and do the work. And if my content resonates with you, find it and consume it, because I don't just put out consumerism content where it's just like so passive. I put out stuff that's activating, and especially like my email list. I'm really about like take
join our email list. There you go.
Yeah, and if it's not me, like find somebody you resonate with. Find somebody that speaks into your soul, and actually don't just consume their information, but take action on it and live the principles of the work. Like that's my number one ask of all people. Like just live it. Just live one little thing at least from this stuff that like hits your soul and says yes.
So good. And thank you so much. And I'm so glad we got to do this in person as opposed to split screen. That just made my and I'm so grateful for your time, because I know as a mama and as a warrior in the world, like your time's so valuable, and I just appreciate it. So for being the shining example of female embodiment, I adore and worship you always. And guys, I hope you love the interview. Make sure that you leave us, like it, share it, you know the deal, and also comment and let us know your thoughts. What was the takeaway for you? What landed? What are you going to action? Both Alexi and I are big on, like, talk is just cheap. It really is. And don't be a cheap woman. Be a woman of action, right? So
and I'm gonna tell them too. Tag a girlfriend, a sister, a friend, a partner, a parent, whoever. Tag somebody in this and commit and say, hold me accountable.
Accountability.
To the thing that I, like, you're going to say, here's what I got from this, my number one takeaway. What I'm going to action is, and tag, insert friend here. Hold me accountable to completing this by the end of the week.
She's the queen of stretches. Love it. Thank you, beautiful.
Of course.
And we love you.